A number of years ago, when The Passion of the Christ was produced and released, I went with a priest friend of mine in order to see it when it was brought to local cinemas. And as we sat there waiting for the movie to begin, he went out to what I thought was the bathroom, came back in with popcorn and soda. And I looked at him and I said, I get the distinct impression that this is not going to be that kind of movie. And indeed, I was right. When the movie was released, it was a source of different points of controversy. Because in the movie itself, most especially in the passion that was depicted, it was violent, absolutely violent. And people criticized the nature of the violence. Mel Gibson, we understand, based most of the direction and the production of that movie on the visions that were given to Blessed Catherine Emmerich, a mystic of the Church, who was given insight into the Passion of Christ. And when people spoke about the violence of that movie, I found it rather odd, because I wondered what people expected that the Passion of Jesus would have been like. What did people truly understand that the crucifixion would entail? Certainly, it is not the sanitized version that we hang in our churches. It most certainly is not the pretty and decorative version that we hang around our necks or put on the keychains for our cars. Mel Gibson set before us that which was difficult to watch, that from which we naturally recoiled, but did bring us into an understanding that the crucifixion of Jesus Christ was an absolute bloody mess, that it was torturous, and that no human being, most especially he who is God, should have had to undergo such a humiliation and suffering. Yet in the gospel today, we hear Jesus tell Nicodemus that the Son of Man must be lifted up, because Christ is given to us as a remedy. Last week, as we reflected upon the gospel of the cleansing of the temple, we were given over to the understanding that it would not be rams or bullocks or doves or pigeons that would be offered for the atonement of sin, but rather Jesus Christ gave himself over for the atonement of sin. And so his sacrifice was bloody, it was cruel, it was barbaric. And I think it is important for us to spend sufficient time meditating on that reality. Apart from the liturgy of the church and the prayer of the church, on Good Friday, the only television, so to speak, that I watch each year is the Passion of the Christ. I want to be reminded. I don't want to be divorced from it. I do not ever want to understand that the giving over of his life in the way that he did for Christ on behalf of my salvation was something that was simple, something that was sanitized, something that was just a token of gratuitous gesture on behalf of God. St. Paul reminds us in the second reading today that God did all this while humanity was still dead in her sin. But that in and through the cross of Jesus Christ, and then his ensuing resurrection, that God had proclaimed his kingship, his judgment over the world, and that each and every one who is reborn in the waters of baptism are called, invited by Christ, to take up the cross and to follow after him. To see in the joys and the struggles of our living that it is in and through the cross that we are called to be faithful to Christ. That suffering is part of our humanity, but that disciples of Christ enter into the mystery of suffering in a deeper and more unified way. We are already at the halfway point of our Lenten journey. As we enter more and more into Holy Week, the image of the cross is more starkly presented to us. Its meaning, its implication, and its ramifications. It would be good for each of us to spend time meditating upon the passion of Jesus. Not just to relegate it to something that we do in liturgy on Palm Sunday or Good Friday, but to have a conscious awareness of what it meant for Christ, how it is that he entered into that suffering, and did it out of love, so that our sins could be atoned for, and that he would take upon himself the sufferings of the world in order that it might be redeemed. It would be good and a very fruitful discipline to reflect upon the passion of Christ, to walk the stations of the cross, to meditate, to ask about our response to that which Christ endured for us. In the gospel today, we hear what is probably one of the most quoted sentences of the scripture. It is referred to as the gospel within the gospel. It is the summary of God's love for us and what God has done for us in salvation through Jesus Christ, his Son. For God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whoever might believe in him might not perish, but might have eternal life. When I find myself lacking in charity, when I find myself limited in patience, when I find myself focused too much on myself, it is to the meditation on the passion and death of Jesus Christ that I am drawn. Because the best remedy for too much focus on self is to focus on the one who has loved us and who gave himself over so that we should not be bound or held in bondage to the darkness which is sin. Christ is the light of the world. He is the light of your life and the light of my life. But we should never forget, nor should we separate ourselves from, nor should we sanitize the immense love that Jesus Christ demonstrated for us in that he allowed himself to be lifted up so that we would have a remedy and know clearly the eternal sign of God